Alrighty, so last assignment, number 11, final writing piece, literary analysis paragraph. So again, it's based on the story Exit West. So by now, everyone should have read that story. And this is the handout. And what I'll do is tomorrow we will share out our paragraphs. But basically, there's a TED Talk. Um, it talks about how to resolve conflict. We're going to watch that in a few minutes. And you will fill out this response to that TED Talk. It says, throughout this unit, we have normalized conflict. Conflicts are inevitable. However, it's really about our reaction to conflict. Let's start today by watching a TED Talk that highlights ways we can resolve conflict. As you watch, identify the 3 tips that Dorothy Walker identifies for her audience. So we're going to watch the TED Talk together. And while we're watching that video, we'll try to identify 3 ways in which Dorothy the Walker, the speaker, suggests that we resolve conflict. Afterwards, you guys will work on your literary analysis paragraph. Okay, and there are some what we call sentence starters to help you begin what you have to say. So we'll look at the topic sentence in the excerpt from the novel Exit West. Mohsin Hamid uses the conflict between protagonists and their native land in order to develop the central idea that migration can provide opportunities for new life. So this is pre-done. Context, the protagonists, Saeed and Nadia. So you guys have to tell me a little bit about what they go through, who they are, what's happening. That's the context. Um, Evidence is an example of the conflict made them seek out migrating is. So what caused the conflict? When we talk about the root cause of a conflict, what caused them to want to migrate and leave where they were? That's going to go in this section called the evidence. So you have to find me the quote or the specific example in the text. The analysis, that talks more about the conflict itself. What was the external conflict? What was a conflict that proved something? What conflict did Hamid go through? What conflict did Saeed go through? You're getting deeper into types of conflict and what caused them and how did they resolve it. And then the concluding sentence is already pre-done. So you don't have a whole lot to do here. But what I do want to know is how you respond and how you finish up these sentences, okay? So we're going to begin watching the TED Talk. Okay, good morning. I think I saw Alexander and Emmanuel come in, yes? Good morning, Alexander. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Morning, miss.
Good morning. Alexander, are you there? Alexander. I don't know. I feel like every time Alexander comes in, I never hear him. Maybe he's going to type it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, just for those of you who just walked in, what we're doing is the last assignment for the big assignment for this unit. And to begin, we're going to be watching a TED Talk by Dorothy Walker. I'm going to ask you to pull up this assignment so that while we're watching the TED Talk, you can fill in this information. In order to do so, please go to your, this out the way. Please go to your Google Classroom, which is number 11, final writing piece of your analysis paragraph. Clicking on the handout for today, that's what we're on right now, and we're going to be watching the Dorothy Walker's TED Talk. I'm going to play it here. You can watch it and stop and write inside the box 3 ways in which to resolve conflict. In order to resolve conflict, it means how do you fix the conflict? How do you get rid of the conflict? How do you cope with the conflict? Not all conflict can be resolved, but there might be ways in which you can manage it. Okay, so that it's not as harsh or not as bad. But our role here as we watch this video is to identify the 3 tips that she gives. Are we understanding that? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you have your handout pulled up on your screen. And I'm going to begin. Morning, Matthew. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, miss.
Did you catch what I just said? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, let's begin.
You can make as a mediator. The pertinent to each of. The other day, I watched a YouTube video where a veteran came home to surprise his wife and young children. There were tears rolling down everyone's cheeks. The children were holding on to their father for dear life. Even the dogs were bouncing off the walls. There was so much compassion and love that I started crying too. And I don't even know these people. Your energy and emotions are contagious. We transfer our energy to each other all the time, for better or for worse, often without realizing it. Maybe you've seen how one grumpy coworker can sink the mood of an entire conference room of people, or how one energetic sports fan can get the whole table of people cheering for their team. These are just three examples of what I call energy transference. And when I say energy, I'm not talking about particles, radiation, or thermodynamics. I'm talking about energy, like your personal feelings, moods, and attitudes. The people around you can feel your positive energy, and it can even shift their energy from negative to neutral, neutral to positive. And if you're upset, your negative energy can make others upset. I have seen how long-standing disputes have circled around the world endlessly, leaving so much pain and suffering. So I decided to go for my PhD in dispute resolution. I wondered if there were alternative ways to resolve conflict. So in my research, I interviewed 11 professional mediators and facilitators. They had decades of experience with major companies, governments, and family counseling. They all agreed that positive energy transference is an innate ability and a learnable skill, one that you can use in your daily life. Everyone can act as a mediator, whether it's in a formal mediation on a merger, a conflict with a coworker, an argument between friends or strangers, or even at home in the middle of the kitchen floor holding two children back as they throw punches at each other. So today, I'll tell you how to resolve conflicts, transferring energy and using your positive energy. But first, a word of warning. To succeed, all parties of the conflict must want to work it out. In my first marriage, we went to a divorce counselor. And the first question she asked was, "Do you want to work this out?" I said, "No, not really." So, so she said, "Well, sorry, I can't help you." So we turned around and walked back out. So, assuming that's not the case, here are three simple steps to unstick a conflict, move it forward using your positive energy, and come away with a peaceful resolution. Step one, prepare. One of the biggest mistakes you can make.
Okay, you got that, guys? The first tip to resolve conflict is to prepare. I'm gonna jot that down on our handout. Also remember what she said. All parties have to be willing to resolve the conflict before you even get to the first tip. Okay, so I should be hearing that when I ask folks what are some of the tips that Dorothy Walker gave.
take as a mediator is to jump right into a conflict when the emotions are high. Whenever possible, the best bet is to set a future date and time when the emotions and energy can settle and deflate, giving you the opportunity to get ready for the conflict and to start shifting positive energy into the mediation. For example, say your daughter wants to go bungee jumping and dad says, no way. So she comes to you and asks you if you can help her talk to him. You think it's a crazy idea to tie a rope around your ankles and jump off a 500-foot bridge. But you can't say that because you're the mediator. So this is what you do instead. You schedule a time that's convenient for everyone. You meet in the most comfortable room that has no distractions. You make sure that everyone has a glass of cold water. You meditate for a few minutes to eliminate outside distractions. This will allow you to focus, stay impartial, and bring your positive energy into the mediation. Step 2, diffuse and move forward. And
Okay, diffuse and move forward, meaning we're going to get rid of all of the bad, everything that's causing the issue, the arguments. We're going to make those tempers and those bad emotions, kind of calm down. And then we talk about and think about how we can move forward. All right. And again, this is just for a one type of conflict. Not all conflict can be solved this way, just so you know. But it is helpful to know these tips. So make sure we're jotting that down.
in step 2, you want to observe, listen, and ask questions to diffuse the conflict and move it towards a collaboration. Asking neutral questions will make people stop and think. During this pause, will allow negative energy to start diffusing. During that time, the negative energy and emotions will start deflating, and that'll give you time to shift positive energy into the conversation. For example, I was a project manager and we were installing a major software system for payroll system. The contracts and the schedules were finalized and the client requested a major change in the vendors. And this caused a heated conflict between the groups doing the work. Once you've prepared for the conflict, you have to sit down with all the major groups and start asking neutral and non-threatening questions. Ask questions like, well, how much will this cost and when can it get done? This will give you the intent that you're suggesting a collaboration. And you can ask, what do you think about this new change? This will help people diffuse and feel like they are validated. And also ask, are there other possibilities that we haven't considered? This will refocus on new ideas rather than fixed points of view. So when the smoke has cleared and the stone faces begin to melt, that's time to get a consensus. Once that's completed, you have that positive energy going for you. So step 3. Step 3 is to make an agreement. I was told in the...
Okay. Step 3, make an agreement. So it's kind of like a verbal contract where you decide, both parties decide, or how many people are involved. This is what we're agreeing to. This is what we're going to commit to. Okay. It's a promise you're making. So that should be your third tip that you're jotting down.
Interviews that the energy in the room is constantly moving and changing. And once the energy is neutral, that's time to get a consensus in a verbal or written agreement. That's true of business and interpersonal conflicts too. I co-mediated a conflict between 3 college roommates. And we discussed everything from who would take out the trash on which days to how they would use the open living space. And even though this was a mediation between friends, we still wrote up a written agreement with specific steps to make sure there was no misunderstandings. I believe that there's a resolution to all conflicts. It just takes a willingness to try. Your positive energy that comes from your compassion, empathy, and sincere intentions, and it's your desire that sets it in motion. So I believe that everyone can use their positive energy to resolve the next conflict in their life. Thank you.
Alrighty. So again, I'll repeat. You've watched the TED Talk, so by now I'll put up the Google Doc once again. Where's my Google Doc? Here we go. You should have jotted down the 3 tips that Dorothy Walker gave you on how to resolve conflict. We'll come back to that. If you have not watched it, you need to go back and watch it on your own. And now we're going to scroll down to the bottom. Okay. And just to make sure this is our self check-in, by now you should be able to understand what essential idea conflict in a topic sentence. Remember, there's the vocabulary word wall that you can refer to give you an idea of what that is. That can be found on your Google Classroom under materials. Do you feel confident about being able to identify essential idea in the text that you read? And what components should be included in a topic sentence? Again, these are all included in your Google Classroom. Now we're talking about writing our final literary analysis paragraph. So as we read the excerpt from Exit West, which again by now we should have read, we were asked to identify the central idea, identify the conflicts that were developed in that story, be able to give the topic sentence. Again, the topic sentence includes the title, the author, the genre, what types of conflict was going on, why this conflict came to be in the first place, how do we resolve that conflict, and now we're going to move into finishing up that analysis. So you do not have to use these prompts that are here on your copy. You can erase them and do what you'd like, but they are here to help you begin the thought process, okay? So when you talk about the topic sentence, it's basically already pre-done for you. The context, again, focuses on what's going on with Saeed and Nadia. What are they going through? What's happening? What's the plot, basically? The summary. The evidence is what you're going to use to support the context. So if we're saying that they're going through an issue with where they're living, the Civil War, they want to escape, then I need to see evidence here. The quote that shows that. Why are they migrating? Why are they leaving? Then the analysis is when you take a deeper look at what's causing the conflict. How are they coping with the conflict? How are they trying to resolve that conflict? And then their concluding sentence is already pre-done. So this is what we're focusing on now. I expect that this should be done shortly. It shouldn't take too long. And then tomorrow we'll be sharing out and presenting our paragraphs that we came up with. So it is now 8:49. You have until 9:11, 9:10 thereabouts. So you get about 20 minutes to basically fill in your paragraph. I don't think that it should take that long, but for those of you who came in late, you might need more time. So I'm going to ask that you start working on that right now. If you have any questions, let us know. All right. All right, who came in? Let me see. Hermione just came in. And I think that was while I was watching the video.
Yeah, good morning, Miss